And we're live! Indy fanatics are back! Where have we been? There's been an end of an IndyCar season since you've last seen us. And just like an unpredictable winner at the start of the season for a champion in the form of Will Power, it's been an unpredictable coverage season for Indy fanatics.
Yes, I think that is fair to say. We were there, then we were gone. And then we were back. And then we disappeared right at the end again.
But we didn't disappear. We kind of go from there. Good afternoon, Jacob. Good to see you. Big C Burger. Great to see you in chat. The first hello of the day. Our winner of the final race at Laguna Seca. And Stephen, it was a fantastic performance from Alex, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Are we just going to jump straight to
No, I'm just gonna say, as someone brought up hello Polo, it seemed a good time to mention it was a dominating win for the controversy of the season.
Was
Alex Polo,
the most dominating race I've seen from a single driver since we started watching IndyCar full time, say in the last 2 years.
There you go.
It was magical.
Hello, Polo! Hello, Daniel in chat.
I mean, how does a guy just put out what was it in the end? 40 seconds, 30 seconds lead?
It's huge.
In a spec series, in a near spec series.
It was massively impressive. Look, thank you for everyone who is part of the kind of season review here. We're kind of going to go over look of the season. We'll probably aim for about an hour or so, but you never know. If the conversation gets good, we'll see where it is. Stephen may just go, I've had enough. He'll do a pull of Nashville. I think it's got to be the iconic live stream of the day. But yeah, look, we're going to overlook what I've got to say has been an incredible IndyCar season. And I think as IndyCar fans, as race fans, we're incredibly lucky to, be watching. I mean, it was debated, is this a new golden era for IndyCar? Obviously, the late 80s, the quality of drivers that IndyCar is attracting now, the quality of races that are happening. Yes, not every single race was an absolute stormer, but the majority were. The majority were absolutely brilliant. Watch Bathurst this weekend. We'll try and watch that, actually. That's, I think, always a good one. Is Scotty Mack racing there? We'll come back to kind of chat as we go from there. Australian Supercars.
Yeah, but would he fly all the way back?
He might do.
Could do.
I mean, what else has he got to do for 6 months? But, look, it's been an incredible season of IndyCar again. We asked, could 2022 top 2021, because 2021 was a brilliant season. And I think that's probably a question we'll ask you guys, and we'll go through, our kind of thoughts as we go along. But yeah, there's a lot to kind of get stuck in with this season. I don't know if we go in straight with kind of Will Power and talk about the champion, because it was, in fairness, because he brought it up with the Bathurst 100. It's the start of the season. It's probably quite a good one to start this season review. Big surprise for me, not because I didn't think he was talented, but just with how good he got in his sophomore season. And a lot of people were thinking Grosjean was going to be the ones who kind of took the series by the horns, so to say, and kind of really stamped his authority on it with Andretti Autosport. It was Scott McLaughlin with that pretty impressive, dominant opening race win at St. Petersburg. He was a fantastic revelation in his sophomore year.
Yeah, didn't he end up with the second most wins?
I think so.
Second most wins?
I think so, yeah.
Which would, yeah, it was incredible. At some points, it was like, is he going to do a Polo? So obviously, Plo went and won it in his sophomore season with Chip Ganassi. So it was kind of had all the feelings of that. But I think when Newgarden nabbed it off him at Texas on the last lap, and there was like, Scotty still has a bit to go here. But it was incredible. He didn't actually drop. He had some low points, but considering where he ended, it was still at the top. still top level there. And yeah, like you say, a big surprise that he's just maybe not a big surprise they made the step up, but almost we weren't expecting it too much. Like you said,
I think
attention was on other drivers in their sophomore season, like Grosjean.
it was the time scale, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And even Scotty Mack, I think people thought he was going to do well. But, like you said, probably was unless you're a Scotty Mack fan, and there are plenty of them out there, and there are plenty of people who realise just how good a driver Scott McLaughlin is. But, the interest was probably what was Jimmy Johnson going to do on ovals?
Yes.
As we'll come on to, actually pretty damn good of what we kind of hoped we'd get from Jimmy Johnson. But, Grosjean, I think with what he achieved with Dale Coyne, going into a more traditionally top team, as that transpired, Andretti maybe wasn't the case, and they continue their struggles as we go along. But yeah, he kind of really, it's the time scale, how quickly, first race of the season, bam, slapped that authority. Nearly went and slapped his authority with back-to-back wins. Newgarden showing his class, and that, like you said, just a little bit of a gap. And Penske overall, I think, had the best package this year.
Yeah, for sure.
They really kind of fought back. Chevy fought back on the engine.
I think it was something like 9 wins, 9 poles, and 22 podiums. Which pretty staggering numbers right there.
Yeah, they had an absolutely fantastic season, obviously culminating in one of their drivers winning the championship. And, the Indy 500, traditionally such a Penske event, the most successful team at the 500, but they still struggled a little bit. But you wouldn't rule out one of them winning it next year, especially Scotty Mack has a real kind of love for it. You can definitely see him coming through there. Let's just have a quick look at some of the comments. Do you guys think IndyCar season should be longer? We'll answer those sort of questions. Whackman, keep that question with your thought. We'll answer those sort of questions when we kind of finish the overview of the season. Rookie of the season, wrong. 500 pole and winner, wrong. Engine champ, wrong. Champion, extremely wrong. I had Will Power in 9th. I only got Newgarden and Dixon right in my top 10 predictions.
We should have looked at our predictions.
We should have done. I'm sure we'll do a video. We'll do a live stream and we'll kind of react to it as we go along. Thought Meyer Shank bringing Pagano in would upgrade them right away, and they definitely didn't happen. Yep. I think a lot of people thought that. Chevy had 13 poles and 11 wins. Crazy. 28 podiums. Is IndyCar responsible for the Nord Stream pipeline attack? Yes. Yes, it is. Go from there. But yeah, Scotty Mack, incredible winner of the sophomores for definite. But yeah, incredible year.
Yeah. How are we doing this? Are we doing like winners and losers of the season?
I don't know.
Are you just going to meander through? Hope we pick up.
Yeah, I was just meander through was probably the approach. I was going to go and see if we can get a light, because we are kind of here, but see if we can get.
Is there no light down there?
I don't think so. Anyway, you go on to the next point of meandering.
Wait, you were in charge of the boat down the river. I was just a mere passenger on the boat, and now you're giving me controls to meander down the river.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Who do we go to next? What about the struggles of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing?
Oh my god!
Because I can tell that's going to be a fun topic when we review our prediction video. Because I was predicting that this was the year, the rise of Rahal Letterman Lanigan. 3 cars, Jack Carvey coming off a really good, consistent season with Meyer Shank. Coming into that 3rd car, High V. Graham felt like something was going to happen again, finding form. And then Christian Lundgaard, the highly talented, that's blinding. Rookie. It was all looking great. I predicted 2 of them in my top 5, I think it was, in my season standings. What happened? Disaster. I presume the reshuffling of the whole team, it just exploded. And then I think they're my biggest disappointment above Meyershank Racing in terms of teams. Although Christian Lundgaard at the end of the season looked immense.
He did. And look, we've seen Big C Berger's a fan of the meander, and Jacob's going to go by team grading each team. We could probably do a hybrid of both, where we meander with whichever team kind of comes to mind of what we focus on. We'll come back to, obviously, we've spoken about Scotty McLaughlin, but we'll come back to Penske as a whole team, because we'll probably finish with them, seeing as Will Power.
So we're going to start at the bottom here, is what you're saying.
Starting at the bottom. Now we're Power.
Probably were the bottom team because they finished strong, but yeah.
Yeah, look, Rahal Letterman Lanigan. We made a video of going, can they challenge the top? I think we did like a podcast topic on them. Of
outside the tub. Remember that?
Yeah, outside the tub. Remember those. Rahal Letterman Lanigan gets a C. Yeah, look. Jack Harvey was the biggest disappointment, not just because of how talented we know he is. It just didn't work. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he bounces back in his second season a lot stronger. His first season with Rahal Letterman Lanigan stunk of Felix Rosenqvist's first season at Arrow McLaren SP.
New car, new team, new team personnel. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes from there. But lending into it, Rookie of the Year, Christian Lundgaard. Official points Rookie of the Year. Was he actually the Rookie of the Year? I think David Malukas gave him a very big kind of run-in for his money. But like you said there, Harvey obviously had a massively disappointing season. Graham Rahal grew throughout and kind of started to do what Graham expects to do in it, but nothing spectacular. But Christian Lundgaard really started to look like the driver he was over in Europe, and looks like if he continues to develop, he could be a serious threat within the series. You know, make a name for himself like Rinus VK's doing at Ed Carpenter Racing. And, you know, we could easily see the likes of VK and Lundgaard being part of the Penskes and the Ganassis lineups of the future.
I think Christian deserved Rookie of the Year. I know you're saying on points, almost suggesting that Malukas was the rookie. Lundgaard looks super strong. Those last few races, easily a top 5 driver. Maybe couldn't have the consistency throughout the whole race. But he was super strong. And that's kind of, I think C is probably a fair, because you had someone like Jack Harvey, who's like failing class. But then you got Lundgaard, who for me was for rookie, like an A.
There you go, Jacob.
And then you got Graham, who's like a C. So there we go. C overall.
That is called stealing other people's grading, Stephen.
Disappointment.
If you're in chat and you're reading chat, you understand that he has just meandered his way through Jacob's grading system.
Who's
there.
Jacob? Who's this Jacob we're talking about?
It's great to see Alu in chat as well. Aloha from Hawaii. Thanks for a great job and support of IndyCar, guys. No problem at all. And thank you for everyone's support of the channel, whether you're watching with us live or you're watching this on replay. We hope you've enjoyed an IndyCar season and enjoy our thoughts and takes on it. But yeah, that probably settles Rahal Letterman Lanigan. It was a disappointing season.
Yeah. Were they your biggest disappointment, or are you saving that? I feel that's a whole award that I've just made up.
Yeah, you know what? I think they were. Because we had such high hopes for them going into this season.
Yeah.
And we were so excited by this team prospect together. And only really Lundgaard delivered.
Yeah. But you can understand it. When team expands to 3 cars, it's not like, well, you're just sticking another driver in there.
It's splitting resources, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's a whole adjustment, which is kind of fair enough. Maybe we should have anticipated that a little bit.
No,
and not think it was going to affect them. Yeah, there we go. I think they should bounce back strong.
I guess where we were probably thinking is they put in the groundwork, because pretty much the second half of 2021, they pretty much ran 3 cars with Santino Ferrucci pretty much in all week, and Oliver Ash giving appointments. Christian Lingard won. Santucci!
Let's move on.
As a Pato fan, his season felt disappointing despite 2 wins. Yeah, we'll get on to our McLaren SP, but I think there's definitely kind of like an argument there, Joe, for sure. Look, next team, AJ Foyt Racing. Let's kind of gather around a team, because they're a really interesting team. Because what they have in Tatiana Calderon, it didn't work. She didn't deliver, but then was she really given the chance to deliver? Sponsorship kind of came in and out, and that third car kind of basically dropped from the team.
Yeah.
Didn't it? I think they had trouble with the Rocket sponsorship in the end. So that was a real kind of struggle for that. Look, at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves. IndyCar is a super competitive series. AJ Foyt Racing, they're always going to be near the back. But Kyle, with his immense talent, showed that you can still get something out of that car, because it is a spec series to an extent. And, with performances, you can still pull out fantastic qualifying performances. And, you saw that even with Dalton Kellett. Where was it? Was it Gateway that he got 11th? There was a place where he
made it into the Fast 12 the first time. Toronto?
I would love it to be Toronto. Would have been his.
I don't think it was it?
Jacob Foyt. D. Look.
It was somewhere.
Tatiana was always going to be a struggle.
Going to be Toronto.
And there were no surprises to how that season unfolded. Dalton Kellett, I think, is absolutely fantastic for the series. I think he's a fantastic personality. Are his skills more suited to a race engineer? Maybe. I think, even with the interview that we did with him at the back end of 2021, he is such a technical guy. His understanding of how the car works and of the sport is so immense. But that's maybe where he talks himself out of it from there. But there were still some glimmers of impressive performances within that, considering that it's AJ Foyt. And it's so tough because AJ Foyt, IndyCar, you think 4 Indy 500s, 7 IndyCar championships, the most wins of all time in the series. You think greatness, but the team itself, without AJ in the car, hasn't necessarily translated to that. And they're about where you expect them to be. So it's difficult to really gauge where the drivers are compared to it. But Dalton is more of the back end. But Kyle Kirkwood, super, super talented. But I think he became frustrated with the car.
Yes, that's my only thing is I think he was pushing a bit too much to maximize. Because I don't think he has as consistent season as Malukas and Lundgaard. There are a few mistakes that crept in, especially towards the second half of the season. That cost him quite a bit. But yeah, you can tell there's a driver there, for sure. Next kind of wave. We haven't really got through the her to Pato wave because they're all like super early 20s. But he's kind of at the latter end of that wave, I guess.
Yeah, with Malukas and Lundgaard.
Yeah,
absolutely. And obviously, we're going to see him in Andretti Autosport colours next year as well.
Yeah.
So we are going to see him in more capable machinery, and maybe he will.
Is that a curse or a blessing?
I don't know. You'll see. Roman Grosjean, it certainly hasn't worked out rosy But it'll be interesting to see that direction where Andretti Autosport go, although Colton Herta will now be likely staying in that car.
Yes.
Or that team.
He signed a multi-year extension, I believe.
Yeah, so yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how Kirkwood goes from there. Joe, hot take, Kirkwood became the villain we all thought Di Francesco would be. Crashing people out and blaming them, not protecting the equipment, just disappointing. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, there were a lot of mistakes in there. Would I describe him as a villain? I don't know. I guess I had that preconception of Kirkwood just being a proper driver. Whereas Devlin, the only thing I've heard is not so positive things. So when Kirkwood makes a mistake, it's like, that's stupid, that's frustrating. But I'm not like, Kirkwood.
Yeah, look, I think with Kirkwood, he won back-to-back championship. He just accelerated his way through. And he knew that he had to impress. And he wants to kind of impress within the series. He was a young driver. And he's really passionate about being great. He's got to learn and come to it. But the talent was clear to see. And especially early doors, he had some fantastic performances. And I think that was maybe a curse because he thought of what was then maybe capable with that AJ team. And it seemed to go backwards rather than forwards. And that's where the frustration kicked in. I think, obviously crashing with Malukas, was it in one of the closing races of the season? It might have been Toronto. That they came together blows. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, that's probably where that is. And I would say there were probably more negative incidents that Kirkwood was involved in at the end of the season. So that maybe is a little bit of recency bias of what's kind of stuck in the memory rather than his impressive start to the season. Andretti's going to be interesting, though.
I think the point stands because Devlin didn't screw up in the second half of the season. He just didn't do anything. So is that a positive? I don't know. But we should probably move on to the next team.
He took out Malukas at Nashville. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that.
Everyone took out everyone at Nashville. Let's not pretend.
Let's not be too hard on the guy. Nashville was just if you didn't crash into anyone, were you really driving in Nashville? Oh, geez. Crazy in there. Right. That pretty much wraps up AJ Foyt. Probably a good one to talk about. We've spoken about him elusively there. Dale Coyne Racing. Got a vastly experienced driver in Takuma Sato and an exciting rookie in Malukas. All the hype was around Kirkwood, but those who had followed Indy Lights had gone, watch out for this Malukas kid because he's not far off and he is really good. And I'll be honest with you, he beat his more experienced teammate Takuma Sato in the points, which is the first kind of barometer of what you've got to do. I think in a team, you've got to beat your teammates because you're in similar style machinery, or at least the team are in a similar sort of ethos and backing within IndyCar. There's less in an F1 team. There's more chance to have disparity between cars, but they're going to be a lot closer in an already closer series. But Takuma excelled again where you expect him to. His stronger performances, I think, were on ovals from memory, but a disappointing season for Sato.
Just on Sato, didn't realise he was racing this year. Can anyone think of a memorable Takuma Sato moment?
Well, Jacob said he had moments, so hopefully he can remember a moment.
I vaguely remember moments going, oh, Takuma, top 5, and then he goes.
Was it in Gateway? I want to say in Gateway at the end. He was running a really good strategy on an oval. But then caution kind of fell apart
and
his race fell apart and he disappeared. So it was a moment from there. His incident in Texas, Austin. Go from there. But yeah, look, Malukas, for me, I know obviously, look, Malukas for me had that Grosjean feel as an impressive rookie.
Yeah.
I considering where Dale Coyne are as a team, they are a team that punch above their weight for the size of team that they are, but you've got to be super talented to be able to display that. And Malukas did. And the fact that he kind of Rahal Letterman Lanigan, a driver like that, he took it quite close to the end for a points one. I think that's really impressive. How it speaks volume of Malukas, and I think he is made to go to a Team Penske when Will Power decides he's finally going to pack it in. Although the fact that he's won a championship, it may be not for a good few years, so it may be Chip Ganassi that comes knocking before that goes. Yeah, Gateway. There you go. David was on peak performance near the end of the season. He found his groove and it's looking good. Yep, Power has 5 more years. I think so. I wouldn't put Power past 5 years with considering how good he looked and how many pole positions he got. He will come on to Will Power later on in this podcast. But yeah, look, anyone of those young drivers who are looking at Penske and Will Power's seat at potentially maybe a couple of years going into it have now are the most disappointed that Will Power has won this championship because Newgarden and McLaughlin are going nowhere. So they've got to hope that Penske are open to a 4th car.
Yeah.
Again, otherwise it's it looks like that 3-man team are set for a little while yet. But yeah, Malukas, I was hugely impressed with him. I can't wait to see what he does again next year. The only problem I would say is, did Rahal Letterman Lanigan and Lundgaard start to get it together in the end? Now Kirkwood's gone to Andretti Autosport. Will he struggle? Will he be left behind a little bit more at Dale Coyne Racing?
You can see what Grosjean did there. He could still get podiums and he could still get poles. So that's going to be Malukas' target for 2023. The potential's there to nick results here and there, like big results, not just a top 10. So yeah, if he's got that talent and he can push on, he shouldn't be too worried about having another year at Dale Coyne.
People have won races with Dale Coyne Racing.
Yeah.
In the last decade.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Grosjean got a pole with the team. He can fight for a pole position. He was getting in the fast 6 at the end. So he can fight for pole positions.
Yeah.
And race wins may be difficult, but not impossible. You only have to look at like Arenas BK that put it together at the IMS road course and got his first win with
Carpenter Racing there as well. Who could have easily got on one. So yeah, potential's there.
Scott, welcome to the chat. I can see Malukas at Penske, something I cannot see for others, notably Herta. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that is fair. Like I said, I look at Malukas and I see him in the overalls of Team Penske in the future. I don't know when that comes, but I do see it. And if his dad decides to take the HMD back in with him, then you could easily see him, if they partner up with Menards, who have been a long time Penske thing, easily could be a 4th car in 2024 with the hybrid engines coming in.
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyway, that probably rounds off.
What was Jacob's rating for me to steal?
I don't know. I don't know what it was on there. It was strange to see Grosjean go from hero to villain so quickly. Is that probably the next team? Andretti Autosport? Or do we stay around the not lower echelons, but the kind of...
stay around the lower, we can go to Andretti now.
Hello, Break.
Let's do Ed Carpenter Racing.
Okay. Ed Carpenter Racing.
They're probably the last smaller team.
Floor's yours.
For us, mine. Where were they? Connor Daly had a full season at one team. Pretty crazy. Didn't do anything. They were kind of in that midfield outside top 10. VK had moments a bit like Takuma, but instead of Takuma, it was two drivers I didn't realize were racing most of the time. VK had a good mid or high. I remember that. But throughout the whole season, neither of them had a special performance. Like a top 5 podium that I go, wow. Especially Connor.
Yeah.
You're going to come to their defense right now, I feel.
Look, no. Where I'm going, I think what we can take from Ed Carpenter Racing, one, is it now time for Ed Carpenter to put aside racing? Maybe just one-off Indy 500s, but outside of the Indy 500 oval performances.
I didn't even mention it.
Yeah. You see, Connor, it's difficult. No team has put their faith in him for a full-time season, I think, ever before. I think he may have had one other full-time season under his belt, and with Dale Coyne maybe beforehand. But there were moments there where he was leading the points, and I'm like going, how are you leading, VK? I haven't seen anything. But he'd managed a cumulative go. This isn't meant to be rude to Ed Carpenter Racing, but one of the most disappointing things that I saw was that Rinus VK signed a new deal with Ed Carpenter Racing.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. He may have explored all those other options, and they may not have been on the table. But Rinus is super talented, and when he is on it, he is on it. He is probably more leaning towards the Herter side of blisteringly quick when he's on it, but there are mistakes in him, rather than more the kind of Pato Pelot consistency side. Indy fans play something on the wall behind them. Don't you just like the bland yellow wall?
So put something on the wall.
Yeah. We'll get like faces. We'll figure out for next year. We'll
get
spruce
faces.
Up the yeah, just like cutouts of like Scott Dixon and Will Power. What do you think, Scott? Thanks, Scott. But yeah, look, going back to Rinus VK, as of obviously meandering and getting distracted as always. He's in limbo. He's in. I'm stuck. I'm waiting for Rinus VK. He's had his wow moment. You know, he's got his race win. He got his first pole position. All right, 2022. You know, that was 2020. That was 2021. He's had his big moments. 2022. I feel like Rinus VK stood still. He will probably say that he developed. Ed Carpenter Racing, I don't think have been as competitive as what they have been in previous seasons, and I'm sure he's got loads of race experience under the belt. But the harshness, like I say, what did they do this year?
What did they do? Jacob gave them a D. I'm going to go straight F. They failed this year. Bish bash bosh, get out of our review. What did they do? They had, I can remember, at least I can remember the Mid-Ohio VK sending it. But other than that, especially Connor Daly, his first full-time season with one team, the consistency of a team there with him, could he show he's got it to mix with the big boys now? But that could just be the whole team. Like we saw Rahal Letterman Lanigan, the whole team can struggle. And maybe Ed Carpenter will have a year with a few struggles. We've seen that happen to Andretti, even the top. Penske have had their years that they struggled. Last year, Penske were all over the place other than Newgarden.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
But yeah, it was a season probably to forget for there. And I probably just looking at points, I I'm trying to see kind of, so 12th and 17th for Ed Carpenter Racing is about where I'd have them. Yeah, I guess so. Ed's performance at Iowa and Gateway were embarrassing. Please retire, Ed. My D is more for how uncompetitive they were on ovals outside the 500. Yeah, I mean, they're always so competitive at Indy. I don't know, because Ed's an Indianapolis homeboy. I don't know if the whole, does it get blinkered, Indy 500? And that's not a problem. But I think Rinus VK is more. He can win Indy 500s, but he can also compete for championships. And it's not going to happen at Ed Carpenter Racing.
But finishing 12th in the standards is actually better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give them an E.
I suppose Connor raises such an interesting point. I think Scott's got there, had so many stop-starts in his career, it may be too late. I think...
VK?
No, Connor Daly.
Oh.
With so much talent coming through, and, you know, the next one, I mean, Linus Ludfis hasn't got a seat yet, has he?
No.
He hasn't been announced one, and he should be the Indy Lights champion. And, you know, F2 drivers are definitely looking at possibilities of coming across. They're seeing how well the likes of, well, actually, that's probably the next team, Callum Ilott, has done. You know, how well European guys like Rinus VK has done. Christian Lundgaard, how well he's done with Rahal Letterman Lanigan. The door is open for European talent that F1 clearly don't have time for. And, you know, Oscar Piastri's proven that drivers can be a little bit impatient and either got to force their way in difficult negotiations or look stateside for IndyCar. I think we'll see a fade to Connor and the likes of Connor. I think his generation will start to fade.
Yeah. His generation?
Isn't
Newgarden part of his generation?
I guess so.
Let's just say Connor will start to fade.
Let's
not sum up a whole generation because of Connor Daly.
We've gone! We're sacked him!
IndyCar.
Yeah, true.
There's still potential for him. Like you said, Ed Carpenter's super strong around Indianapolis. There's still potential to have a special moment there. But yeah, let's move on to the next team.
Right. Well, let's go to Juncos Hollinger Racing. Callum Ilott. Home country boy! Well, I think we've got to change it up. Max Chilton, you know, we can always get him on Indy 500 coverage, but we've got to get a new, Jack Harvey. That's a bit of a kick in the teeth to there. But
Lincolnshire.
Was
it Yorkshire? I don't even know what it was.
Well, he actually is from Lincolnshire.
Oh,
I chanted Yorkshire. Oh dear, it was awful. Callum Ilott was absolutely fantastic for a tiny team and their return to IndyCar full time. Obviously, they had, you know, the back end of last year where they put, 3 races, I think, at the back end of 2021 season. Callum Ilott, by the looks of things, is going to have a great IndyCar. Well, great's maybe far too soon. But I see him having a career in IndyCar. Yeah. Again, Malukas, Kirkwood, Ilott, really exciting coming through. Lundgaard as well. All 4 of the major rookies, sorry, Devlin, did a fantastic job. And I think Callum within that team, I know everything was focused around him and that could, you know, be a positive, but he had no experience really to kind of bounce off and go. The team, you know, hadn't been regularly competed. They weren't Adele Coyne Racing. Yes, they've competed in IndyCar before, but they weren't an established team within the series. I think some of his performances this year were outstanding.
Yeah, and I think he was just let down with a few reliability issues. From memory, that kind of hampered some of his days. But yeah, he's driving very impressive Callum Ilott this year. And yeah, once as the team grows, I know they've started up their Indy Lights program again, I believe. So you can tell the team's growing, and Callum making himself central to that is in a great position just to carry on building. And there is a quality driver there. of kind of that young generation, he's definitely got the talent to bring it if the team brings it as well.
Yeah, look, he was very close to a F2 championship in his juniors. His pace has always been there. It's been whether he can consistently piece it together. That, strangely enough, has probably been one of Callum Ilot's most complete seasons.
Yeah.
Without, obviously, in the junior series, he was always there or thereabouts competing for championships. But that is probably one of his most complete seasons. And it was really fantastic to watch. And he was a guy that, I had question marks over. I think of his time in F2, of whether he could have the consistency to be a top driver. But I think, he hasn't fully answered those because it's difficult. It's his rookie season. But I think he's answered a lot of those questions, that he is a serious talent and he is someone to be taken really seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I guess we're moving on to the big four, shall we say. And the bottom, and what has been part of the traditional top three, Andretti Autosport.
You're going to go Johnny first. Oh, okay. Yes, Andretti Autosport, a season to forget for them. We had the whole F1 failed bids. We had a civil war, them trying to copy the Marvel franchise. We had them having we had a driver abandonment of the team. We had them having the worst rookie on the grid.
In place of a Carl Kirkwood, who they could have had.
Yes, they could have. Did Hertel win a race this year?
Yes.
He did, didn't he?
I think he won a couple. He won the wet first race at IMS Road Course.
He did. So there was, as always, with Andretti the last few years, the shining beacon is Colton Herta. It was, I remember now, it was mid-Ohio, wasn't it? Where they absolutely fluffed it and left him out. But yeah, he won wet IMS, and did he win a street? I don't think he did. Maybe that was his only win. Long Beach? No.
Minus. Just wet Indy.
That's probably...
And you know what? It felt... The reason you're struggling is because Herta is so talented, you feel like he should have won more races than just one.
Yeah.
And he was in positions where he should have won more races, but it came a constant theme that either Colton would make a mistake or Andretti would cock up strategy.
Yeah.
And throw away a really strong position. RLB Films, keep that question. Does IndyCar need better beginning to the season schedule? Really good question. We'll come to that kind of at the end as we kind of look at it. We will hold that question, have noted it. It's a good question. Guys, if you are putting questions in chat, we are trying to kind of keep up to date. And if they're relevant on the team at the time, we'll try and give it a mention. And like kind of more overall questions we'll come to at the end. But yeah, and Andretti Autosport feels like Colton Herta. But like you said, look, Marshall Pruitt has spoken about it. It's nonsense to say that the F1 team stuff is a distraction from the IndyCar team. To an extent, I agree with Marshall. But subconsciously, you take your kind of eye off the ball. I think you take your cutting edge. It has to have had, whether it's only like a small 1%, 1.5, 2%, whatever, a tiny percent of how it's affected the team. Their focus, Mario constantly is going, the focus is still, even now, the focus is still to get Andretti Autosport. They're treating it that they're going to get into team. I know they have teams across multiple series and multiple franchises, but IndyCar was the pinnacle, was the focus of that. That was what it is. And if they go to F1, just because of the nature of the investment of that, that will have to be their number one focus. And that doesn't mean that they will perform badly in IndyCar and that all those guys employed to perform IndyCar, I have no doubt that they turn up and they want to do the best that they can in IndyCar. I have no doubt that Colton Herta wants to, win as many races. He wants to win championships. He wants to win Indy 500s and IndyCar. But at several times, it's looked like he would have an F1 seat. Last year, it was the kind of Alfa Romeo seat that he thought he would have. It transpired that Red Bull suddenly wanted to shove him into the AlphaTauri one. And, that's why it was in his best interest to perform well in IndyCar to get the super license points needed to compete in that series. But there's just something about that team that the edge has fallen off. And it's also to do with the aero screen. They haven't coped well in the aero screen era.
Yeah, there's kind of a bit of an old excuse now.
Exactly. That excuse is the same for every team now. And buck it up. You've got the talent there. You should be doing better than what you're doing. And he epitomizes where that team is. You expect them to be at the front challenging. You expect them to have super talented drivers, but it's not working. And sometimes that is the fault of the driver, and sometimes that's the fault of the team. It's not working. It's not a well-oiled machine. And it's really disappointing to see because they have a fantastic driver roster.
Yeah. Moving on from that, on that roster, Roman Grosjean. We were both pipping him to win at least one race this year. That was like our minimum target, I feel, Roman Grosjean. And a top team in IndyCar, pushing on from Dale Coyne, his good season at Dale Coyne with his poles and podiums. And where was he? Ended up just getting in fights with drivers and becoming a bit of a villain amongst the kind of established roster.
Yeah. And, part of that is you've got to go in and ruffle feathers. And I think that I've seen Scott there. He's found out what it's like to compete at the sharp end. Big Seaberg Andretti have been talking with Ferrari strategists on there. But yeah, look. Roman went to war. And I get it. You've got to be in it for number one. But there is a camaraderie within IndyCar of barriers that you don't cross. And I think how hard he raced Colton and Rossi in early stages of the season set the tone, and it left a bad taste in the mouth.
I think it was the Graham Rahal was the flashpoint.
Absolutely.
Barber, where he had that very questionable contact and very blasé interview saying that's racing, basically. I think that kind of painted a target on his back.
And I think distractions led. There is no doubt that Roman Grosjean is incredibly talented. He doesn't race in F1 for as long as he did if he isn't. He doesn't get those performances with Dale Coyne Racing last year if he isn't. But I think, I don't know Grosjean. I've never kind of met him. We haven't had the pleasure of interviewing him yet. I'm sure we will get to at some stage. Everyone wants to be interviewed by NT Fanatics. Don't pull that face. Bus Bros could never happen in F1. We'll get on to Penske, Scott. Come on. I just feel he got wrapped up in too many things that weren't racing. He doubled down on it and he got defensive where he should have just gone, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I went across a line that I shouldn't have as a teammate. I fucked up. But instead, he was like, no, I didn't. I'm good. This is how I'm going to race. I'm going to fight. And then it leads to situations where the season culminates with Joseph Newgarden basically doing a tactical foul, an equivalent, on Roman Grosjean, putting him in the wall.
Yeah.
And him getting frustrated by it. And you kind of reap what you sow. From the early stage of the season, that is the season that Roman sold. I hope he pulls himself together. We've seen it with Will Power. You know, Grosjean is probably a Power-esque character of emotions play a big part in the way that he is a person. Level-head it, get calmer, focus on the racing, and we can still see a Grosjean that has a lot to offer IndyCar as a series and can be really competitive at the top end. Because it looked like at the start of the season, he was going to kind of lay down the marker and be a really impressive driver. But it didn't end out that way. I guess, do we do a quick Devlin before mentioning Alexander Rossi because it weaves its way into the next team?
Devlin. He did all right in the end. Who's next? Rossi. Quick mention on Rossi?
Yeah, I was going to say Alexander Rossi is the perfect segue into like finishing with Andretti Autosport into our McLaren SP because that's the team he's driving for next year.
Yes.
Alexander Rossi looked like it was going to be a season of what we've seen from Alexander Rossi in the last few seasons. And then announced with our McLaren SP, there were highlights. There were definitely moments of, you know, really exciting in there. He's won a race again in IndyCar, which is fantastic news. I think you're trying to kind of catch up.
Yeah. What's he going about Rossi?
Look, Alexander Rossi is another hugely talented driver, and I think Power, Rossi, and Grosjean go into a category of driver where, funny enough, because Rossi's quite deadpan, you don't think it, but emotional drivers where maybe the emotions have got the better of them at times. He looked like he'd got back to being in control of that more, and more the Rossi that we saw with Andretti Autosport, challenging for titles and also every year competing at the Indy 500 and looking like he could win that race. I think it was an up and down season, but a season that was going, I'm excited about his future with Arrow McLaren SP, rather than, is he just this driver who's going to meander and go, what Alexander Rossi are we going to get week to week?
So many meanders.
So many meanders. Meander.
He finally got a win.
He finally got a win. Absolutely.
I think that's beyond the Civil War. That's Alexander Rossi's season. Is Rossi back? He's going to be going straight into the number 7 seat. And Felix is the one having to move to another car.
This shouldn't take it away from Alexander Rossi. But in that race that he won, he was fantastic. And if you're going to win races in a motor racing, to win first, you have to come first. First, you have to finish.
Yeah.
But Colton Herta was winning that race if his car didn't give up on him.
Technicalities, okay?
That's maybe the nagging feeling in Alexander Rossi. Can he find that special level again? Or is he just going to be that level just below, which is still an incredible driver, but is it just below top caliber? Because the young guns aren't going to wait for him.
This is true. But I'm always going to be a supporter of Alexander Rossi. Yeah. There's so much talent there. And like you say, if he just puts it together, he's broken the wind duck. That's off his back now. If he can get to grips with that McLaren car quickly, that's a race-winning car. Probably more so than an Andretti car that's not in the hands of Colton Herta. So he's got a great shout there.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Arrow McLaren SP. Too much happened off track. Again, they found lacking in strategy and consistency They have, I think, the most talented of the new generation in Pato Award. I think Pato is the best. I think he's
Pato!
the top one out of the Palos, the VKs, and even the next generation coming through. I think Pato Award is the champion of the future, is the Indy 500 winner of the future. I think he is the guy that could lay down some serious records by the end of his IndyCar career is over, if he chooses to spend his entire career in IndyCar, if that F1 door doesn't open up. And by the looks of the way McLaren were hiring drivers left, right, and centre, that may be the case. He stays in IndyCar for his career. Felix Rosenqvist had a lot better season. I was much more impressed with Felix in the supporting role, qualifying especially, and just couldn't really put the package together in the race. But I have to say, overall, for Aaron McLaren SP, considering that Pato was challenging for the title against Palou last year, disappointing season.
Yes, it felt like they didn't make a step up. They stayed stationary, whereas Penske just brought it, and obviously then that had the effect of pushing McLaren down to that kind of third, fourth spot, and they didn't really push on at all. They're having lots of changes behind the scenes, going up to a third car. Time will tell if we're now going to go into some more transition period of McLaren, or if they're actually going to strike gold. Yeah, I'd say it was a bit disappointing. I think everyone involved in McLaren will probably say the same. No one's going to be overly happy that they've gone backwards in the driver's standings.
No. Look, both in F1 and IndyCar, racing is a brutal business. And to be successful in business, sometimes you have to step on toes. But I think there's a way of going through business, and it'll probably lead on to Chip Ganassi with this. I was really unhappy with how Aaron McLaren SP conducted themselves. They were using their bridge to F1.
Wait a second. This isn't Aaron McLaren SP. This is McLaren Racing. That's doing all the shenanigans with all the drivers.
Correct.
Two separate bodies. McLaren Racing is the parent company with Zach Brown in charge, pulling all the strings from all his little finger puppets.
Correct. But that filters down on track.
How so?
I think it's your perception of how you're perceived in the paddock. Zach Brown isn't there every week in IndyCar. And I don't think how business went with how they went on the Alex Palou thing would have been looked on well by other teams. Some understood it. I think Will Power understood it with the kind of opportunities that were on the table. But if they were making legit promises of F1 opportunities, then I have no problem with it. But they had signed Oscar Piastri back in like June, July time.
Yeah, but how is this affecting their on-track? Aaron McLaren SP's on-track performance? Well, people don't like them. No one was crashing them out.
No.
They weren't getting distracted.
No.
We're not going to use that excuse.
Look, I don't really know the point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make is I didn't like it.
They're getting a bit of a bad reputation, but at the end of the day, they've still got three incredible drivers racing for them.
Yeah, they've got Felix, they've got Alexander Rossi, and they've got Pato to lead them into next year. I think Pato's got to leave the team to realise his full potential.
Yeah.
I think Joe's mentioned it. There may be a Penske. I can definitely see Pato in a Penske car. But the problem is, we start seeing a kind of little too many, and there's only a few illustrious seats. So maybe Aaron McLaren SP is where he's going to make his bed, and he's going to make the best of the hand that he's been dealt to try and succeed from there, and hope that when the time comes, when a Penske seat opens up, that he's at the front of that queue.
Yeah, I think overall, Pato showed he's one of the best. Still, Felix is getting to grips the car and showing there's a lot of talent there, especially in qualifying. But overall, disappointing that they made kind of no real progress. They kind of maintained, but no real step up to challenge the authority of a Chip Ganassi or Penske. They're still playing second fiddle, which, to be fair, where they've come from, pretty good spot. But I think everyone expects, especially with the talent with Pato, that they should start swinging at the top. They're not really doing that at the moment. So overall, pretty disappointing.
They needed a step up and they didn't step up. Now, Penske's picket takes more than raw speed for the captain to call. Absolutely. You got to have the whole package, certainly. And I think Pato does have that whole package, if I'm being honest. Yes, he's exuberant in interviews. I think he's very much like Joseph Newgarden, if I'm being honest, just probably with a better record at Indy. Chip Ganassi Racing. Going to be a weird one. Well, I suppose the perfect one to start off with, coming from our McLaren SP, is Alex Palou. The will he, won't he situation that kind of developed. Alex Palou will look at it and go, that decision that's backfired. And luckily, I'm so glad it's worked out, because Palou and Chip Ganassi is a partnership that just works really well. He is the natural heir to Scott Dixon within that team. And I'm glad, it came to senses. And he's going to be racing in the number 10 car for 2023 and beyond. And he can still pursue F1 ideas with McLaren testing.
Yeah, well, he is a McLaren racing driver, isn't he? Racing for Chip Ganassi.
Something like that. Look, whatever the kind of things are, I'm glad that there has been a solution to it.
Yeah.
I hope that it's more kind of long term with Ganassi, because, like I said, Chip Ganassi have the history behind them. And I don't think that door, unfortunately, for Palou is ever going to open for F1. Not because I don't think he's a talented driver, just because you need a very certain set of circumstances to fall your way to end up in a seat in Formula One. And I don't think his face fits. And that's, like I said, not a criticism of him and his talent, just where I kind of see it falling. So his best one, he's made a home for himself in IndyCar. He can be hugely successful. When that whole thing came on, he was probably in a really good position to win back-to-back championships. And that is the point where it all went downhill for him.
Yes, because before that point, obviously he only won one race throughout the whole season. We had super consistency of just, Alex Palou's podium. What happened there? We were saying all last season, we were saying at the start of this season, Palou didn't Palou things. And then, he just disappeared from consistently getting at those top results. And kind of, it felt like at the end of the season, his future was kind of settled. And maybe that whole Laguna Seca showed that it was way off his mind, had talks with Chip, everything was settled, he could go out and race, future certain, and he dominated. And it's like a what if. Because I kind of go, Herter and Andretti, I can't use that an excuse, but I felt like it really did affect Palou.
Yeah. Because it was so direct an influence.
And he had an actual lawsuit as well.
Yeah.
So
it was a really nasty business. The media around IndyCar, for putting it in the public eye, probably quite a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it creates a bit of drama, and drama off track as well as on track makes it to being a good overall entertainment package. And whether you're a hardcore racing fan, there has to be an entertainment aspect to it. Racing purists will prefer that to be on track, but there are off-track elements to it that goes from there. Scott Dixon, with Scott Miller making his point here. I'm going to throw a curveball to this. So starting Dixon, we'll go with Scott Miller's comment here. Dixon's stealth approach is no longer paying off or paying the dividends it once did. His third in the points was good, but he never felt like a threat to win the title. My question would be, if he doesn't fluff the Indy 500, I think Scott Dixon wins this championship.
Yeah, how far did he finish behind in the end?
He was probably about 50 points off, but it would have been a lot. I know he kind of faltered at the end, but he would have had the points lead at least going into the last
If he
race.
goes and wins the 500, yeah, Scott Dixon wins the championship.
If, buts, and maybes is always a thing. Dixon's seasons seem to be being defined by the 500. And it's what makes the 500 point system frustrating, because it is such a big point swing, and it will be what we come on to the last driver in Chip Ganassi and Marcus Ericsson, and kept him into the championship fight for so long. Despite, I would say, Marcus Ericsson was, despite winning the 500, consistently was probably the worst performing driver in the team.
Which is crazy.
We'll come on to that. We'll come on to that. But Dixon, look, I think the reason why it hasn't worked, he's always had to deal with talented drivers, but also I know there has been more road course dominant, and he's had a little bit more pace on the kind of road courses in the past. But there is so much talent that there are less race wins to pick up.
Yeah.
Even on strongholds like Texas, he pretty much, to have a chance in the championship, I know he didn't this year, but he has to win Texas. He has to win his super speedways, and he has to perform well at the super speedways, because that's his strong tracks. If either of them or both of them don't go well, Scott Dixon doesn't win a championship, which isn't a bad thing at 42. What's he now? Is he 41? I think.
Probably.
Yeah, he's somewhere around that bracket. Scott Dixon, I think he put to bed any rumours that he's done. I think he still has a lot to offer the series. Maybe he is on the decline still. You don't know. But he was very, very close to winning this championship, and closer than probably what the points will say at the end of this year.
He was 1 kilometre an hour close. I wouldn't necessarily say it doesn't work, because we've seen, it depends what we talk about stealth. Are we just saying sit in a race and just hope strategy plays for you, not do much? Or are we just saying he does the work but not at the front? Because I get it. I never really considered Scott Dixon a championship contender. I always thought towards the end it was Newgarden or Will. I was more hoping it was Will, thinking it was a certain that was going to be Newgarden, but things didn't work out at Gateway. But yeah, like Will Power won all the stats. It's been too long since the season.
With meanders.
All the stats.
We'll come with more stats and more live streams.
2 wins or 1 win? Will Power.
2 wins. Got to be 2 wins.
Whereas his teammates got 5 wins. But Will Power, through consistency, through stealth in a couple of races, shall we say, has won the championship. So I don't think the stealth approach of just, I'm thinking it's more consistency, top 3, top 5s. I don't think it's not going to win you championships. I think it's key to winning a championship still.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I think for Scott was missing. He won in Toronto, but he was missing just one more win or a couple more
And
good results.
it could have easily been the Indy 500.
500,
It
yeah.
could have easily been. And those are the small margins. And like Scott's kind of mentioned there, small margins of Newgarden's suspension breaking at Iowa. Look, those are the small margins that are the difference over the course of a championship, especially in a super talented field that make or break championship bids. Jonathan Green makes a great point. From 2013 to 2020, Dixon pretty much picked up a championship every other season. You can't keep up that consistency every year. He's still fast. He's still one of the best drivers out there. I can't really disagree after, him constantly putting himself in the championship fight, because he was in the championship fight again.
Yeah.
It was more of the rarity of last year that he was out of it going into the final race. So Marcus Ericsson, Indy 500, despite everything that happened within the race, that is what the Indy 500 is. It is a battle of attrition. You have to fight your way through, and you have to be there at the end to give yourself a chance to win the race. And Marcus has threatened of looking very good at Indy in the past, and this is the year that it all came together. And I thought it was a fantastic performance, and going from there. His overall season was meh.
Yeah, he was. Did he have the championship lead for the longest, possibly? Or maybe joint most races as championship leader? But I don't think there were many people that went, yeah, Marcus got a shot here. Marcus certainly did. But the form that Newgarden was having and the consistency that Will Power was showing, it was like, Ericsson's got nothing. He was in a ship, as we are, meandering down a river, but his had holes in it, and it was sinking. And it was like, it's only a matter of time before this capsizes and fully sinks.
Yeah.
And it did.
I mean, it's an amazing boat analogy of it. But I remember watching, and every time we would discuss Marcus Ericsson, we were going into the race with him leading the championship. And neither of us at any point looked at him and went, that's our champion this year. And I think that speaks volumes. And that's not criticising Marcus. There was a point with Chip Ganassi last year that you thought he may fade into irrelevance. He won the race at Detroit.
Oh, well, yeah.
He won the race at Nashville. And his Ganassi career has taken a massive upturn since then. And winning the Indy 500 is a huge return for Chip Ganassi, and cannot be understated how big a victory it was, because Dixon has been in fantastic positions. Palou was in a fantastic position against Helio Castroneves, but they have not won that Indy 500. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, chat. They have not won an Indy 500 since Dario Franchitti won it last. And he's been out of the sport for almost a decade. So it was a huge achievement from Marcus Ericsson, which winning the 500 almost makes his season. 2012, there you go. Right? So pretty much a decade it was between Indy 500 wins. It was made. All right, it's made this season, but the rest of it, he still has a lot of work to do to be one of the top drivers within the series consistently.
Yeah.
But he could end her career winning 2 or 3 Indy 500s, and that's enough. I mean, look at Helio Castroneves. Never won an IndyCar championship despite his speed and talent, but 4 Indy 500s, I'm not saying Marcus Ericsson is going to do that or is capable of that, but, Helio has done that and made a career at Indy. And you wouldn't say that Helio Castroneves is not a legend.
Yeah. Yeah, Ericsson. I think he just lacks that killer instinct at times. I think it was all there at the 500. Maybe it was just pressure. Maybe he's another guy that let a external factor, like a championship race, get to him a little bit. and made him go, okay, I just need to not crash, get a top 10, and I'll be fine. But that became a bit too regular, and he just wasn't at the front. He just wasn't at the front enough to seal that championship, and ended up being a massive outside contender. I think it was still mathematically possible in the final race, but it was like super outside shot, and he's got to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Am I disappointed in it? No, not really, because I wasn't expecting much more.
Yeah.
500, incredible achievement.
Oh, no.
And that's spam.
Spam's here. Oh, no. Which moves us on nicely to Team Penske. Now, obviously that we have covered Scott McLaughlin at the start of this stream before we decided the direction that we were going to go in, because we were meandering. But we've covered Scott McLaughlin, seen Will Power there. People saying that he's underrated. He's just a bit of a weird guy. I think that's probably a fair, if like newer IndyCar fans who weren't around Will Power's start of his career, I think would probably say that. I think he's probably got quite a strong fan base behind him in his early years because of his talent and the amount of what he kind of did well within the series. Hubba. Yes, calm down in chat. The spam has arrived. Joseph Newgarden, though, before we get on to Will Power.
Wait, sorry, I was like, whoa, because you never spoke about Jimmy Johnson. Did you speak about Jimmy?
Oh, God, yeah.
Jimmy!
Ovals, fantastic. His performances on ovals were
Mostly
what I
great.
expected from him. Yeah, obviously they weren't complete, but we actually saw Jimmy Johnson competing at the sharp end on merit.
Let's see more of that next year, just on the ovals.
And that's where the announcements come. He's given it up full time to pursue other projects. I think that's the right move for IndyCar and also for Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, and let's not beat up on the road courses too much, because I could spend about an hour on that, but we haven't really got time. So I'm happy for us to move on to Penske now.
Okay. Penske. Scott McLaughlin covered. Absolutely fantastic sophomore year. Joseph Newgarden. Another season where I'm not quite sure how he hasn't won the championship.
5 wins. No one came close to that. And the guys lost the championship.
In the last 3 years, we could be talking about Joseph Newgarden as a 5-time IndyCar champion and level on championships with Scott Dixon.
Yeah. Just like Scott Dixon saying he was 1 kilometer miles short of a championship, Joseph Newgarden was 1 sturdy suspension away from a championship. That Gateway race 1, wasn't it? Or was it race 2? No, it was race 2, wasn't it?
Well, race 2 at Texas was the one that you won, yeah.
No, at Gateway.
Oh, Gateway.
When you have the suspension failure, it was race 2.
Oh, well, no, it's Iowa.
Iowa. Sorry. Iowa race 2.
Absolutely dominated.
And the suspension went, and that was his championship. In the end, you look at it, you go plus 50, Newgarden's won the championship.
Well, if he won that race, he took the lead of the championship.
Yeah.
He then suddenly went back and obviously was 30,
Wait, then
40,
a concussion after that race? And yeah.
Joseph, I think...
How?
I think what... Yeah. How? What hurts Joseph Newgarden is he is so good throughout the year. Where did he finish in Indy this year?
That's what you're going to talk about.
But I'm going to say, because Indy is double points, I always feel he never capitalizes. Even if Newgarden was finishing consistently in the top 6 in the Indy 500, yeah.
How? I mean, I love that Power's won the championship. Love it. Love the reformation. We'll come on to Will Power. The evolution of a mindset of a racing driver used to maximum benefit. And it was, I feel like, such a great story. Will Power's won the championship. But Joseph Newgarden, 5 wins! And it's just a broken piece of suspension that's gone at the worst possible time. That's cost him.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a broken bit of suspension in one of his races where it wasn't really going his way, you kind of take it on the chin. You go, it just wasn't my day. But he absolutely dominated that. And he was flying, and you just were like, wow. Well, I think he needed to do more bus pros. Excellent, Joe. Excellent. But yeah, the double points at Indy is a fair. I think it's a fair discussion. And look, throughout the season, we're going to do live chats with you guys. We'll have discussions of just kind of bouncing forward, of kind of, building this community, having great chat about it. And that's probably where we'll answer these questions. We'll probably round off with Will Power, considering that we said we'll be around the hour mark. It's getting to an hour and a half.
We could do like a 5-minute quickfire, maybe.
Yeah, maybe we'll kind of see through there. But
Will Power.
It all rounds up in a beautiful, poetic ending of Will Power winning this championship. I predicted him to win the championship just a year too soon.
Just a year too soon.
Seeing Will Power...
I said, is Will Power... Let's have a flashback. In our prediction videos, is Will Power considered a dark horse this year? And you're like, no. I was just putting him in of outside reaches. Oh, we could do something this year. And you were like, no. I wasn't even like, could he win the championship? I was like, could he get a podium somewhere? You're like, no. And he's gone on and won the championship.
I know.
It's beautiful.
He's also got the most pole positions of all time within IndyCar. And I think a race that epitomizes it, was it Portland, that he was near the back and fought his way back to third.
Yeah, he went all the way to the back after an incident. Wasn't that Road America?
It might. Look, it was something, maybe in Mid-Ohio or something like that. There was a race where he spun at the start. Basically, he's gone last. He's fought his way. I think it was Mid-Ohio. Yeah, Jacob said it's Mid-Ohio, and he's worked. He was the quickest guy on track. He absolutely flew, and he got third. And I looked at that and I went, he could do this. I wouldn't let myself believe that Will Power could do this right up until that last race, where, we didn't do a race review at the end. Stephen was on holiday and watching it, and I watched it as well, and I just couldn't believe it. I don't think, not even until probably this moment now, it fully sunk in that Will Power actually won a second IndyCar championship, because I saw a comment earlier saying that he is underrated. His pole positions in IndyCar alone says how talented and quick this guy is.
All-time greatest qualifier.
All-time greatest qualifier. Mario Andretti, that is no mean feat, getting that. He's got one Indy 500 behind him. Arguably Indy was his area that he needed to improve. But earlier in his career and his things, he should have probably had at least another 2 or 3 championships. We should be talking as Will Power up there with Scott Dixon's, with the maybe 4 or 5 championships to his name. But I think another comment was there earlier. Talent doesn't win you anything. It's got to be that whole package. I think you said, was it you or maybe the commentary gave a ridiculous stat that Will Power had gone into the championship leading the points like 5 times or 3 times, something stupid.
It's like 5 times and he's only won it once.
Yeah. Which is mad. Absolutely mental to do that. And I think his kind of oval racing let him down in the early part of his career. He always seemed to be kind of winning the road course championship. But yeah, because he was inconsistent. And this was the least Will Power-esque season ever. But it's what he needed to win another championship. He's been so calm. He's looked so happy racing. When things didn't go his way, he did not let it get to him one bit. He did not get frustrated. I think he maybe had an early dig. There was an early dig at Jimmy Johnson or something, wasn't it? In St. Petersburg, I'm pretty sure. Jimmy was blocking because it was allowing Pelot to go and chase McLaughlin. He was like, I didn't realise that Jimmy was fighting for podiums. Oh, wait, blue flag. Maybe IndyCar should listen to me or something like that. A classic Will Power rant. But honestly, he, out of the whole season, I know we said Joseph Newgarden, how he hasn't won it. But I feel like Will Power was the most deserving champion and the champion that IndyCar needed this year. I was blown away by the changeovers, and there's still life in the old dog yet.
I think it's a great story. Just that evolution of a guy in his 40s, just absolutely showing how it's done to the next generation of racing drivers. Yeah, he hasn't dominated as much as Newgarden, but he's shown how it's done to win a championship.
That says it all from Scott. He was in the top 5, 12 of the 17 rounds. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And Johnson getting a top 5 in Iowa was an incredible performance. That definitely was. And that's what I want to see more of next year when Johnson does run his oval onlys. But talking about Will, look, yeah, it's an inspiration. Seeing a guy that so many people, I don't think, if you did a poll across IndyCar fans, people who watch the series week in, week out, who watch every race, if you did a poll at the start of 2022, what percentage would have bet on Will Power to win that championship? I'm willing that it was going to be really low. There would have been the die-hard fans to go, I don't know, man. Will is still really quick. If he just pieces it together this year, but you would have gone that's what you say every year about Will, and then something goes wrong and it's inconsistent and he's up there for a bit and then drops off and he finishes in the top 10 because he's in a Penske, but it doesn't really piece together. Incredible season.
Yeah.
And an incredible champion as well. Absolutely incredible.
To do it whilst also breaking the all-time pole record as well. Mega. Mega, 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 mega.
I mean, what a weekend. What a weekend. Broke the record, won his second championship. It was a fantastic way to kind of round off 2022 and the IndyCar season. Was brilliant, and probably rounds off the season review. We may do quick kind of 5
We'll do
questions.
5 minutes starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, you got 5 minutes to do quick 5 questions.
Steven's gone. But yeah, look, I'd absolutely stunned that he kind of would do it, and yeah, really, really happy that he did it. But yeah, any questions from you guys on the floor? Obviously, live streams, we'll try and get live streams. We'll try and at least get once every week talking through this IndyCar season, whether it's just you want to come and chat IndyCar. We'll maybe try and do some kind of old race watch-alongs through it as well.
We'll try doing a second preview, review, doing our predictions.
Yeah, of just kind of doing a stupid video of kind of doing that predictions video at the start. Always goes well for us in terms of it. So yeah, we'll see if we can do that. What's going to be the theme this off season? I don't know. What is going to be the theme this off season? Repaying you faithful IndyCar fans, I vote for classic watch-alongs. Look, we'd love it to do that. I think the theme will be community. IndyCar has a fantastic community, and you guys have stuck with this. Bearing in mind that this season has been a roller coaster of we're here, we're gone, We're here.
Roller coaster now.
We're here.
The theme of this
Go
stream is meandering on a
Sorry.
river.
Sorry.
I'm not on a roller coaster. I'm in a boat.
We've meandered this year. Look. So having IndyCar chats with you, you're absolutely fantastic in chat. You have great discussions, and we want to kind of we'll just be host. We'll be the present to kind of over that. How about something on the wall? Poster or something? We'll get something on the wall. God damn it! We'll put something on the wall. We'll create something. All right for you guys, and just so you don't have to look at our faces, you can go. Bored. What's on the wall? I do think that's a great picture. Yeah. Watch-alongs would be great. Love being able to just hang out with you guys. Look, we just want to hang out, make this a great place to share love IndyCar, react to kind of, the latest stories as we go on. Obviously, we'll talk about, there was brilliant points. I think it's a good one to talk about that long gap at the start of the season. It's really disappointing that IndyCar haven't learned. I know they're desperately trying to get Homestead in there, and that's where it kind of feels. But at some point, Roger's probably got to admit defeat on that one. But yeah, IMSA wet chats with the new area of prototype convergence. We can do, we can chat stuff like that because obviously the IndyCar guys do race in there.
Yes. Not too knowledgeable, but
a poster of Linda Vaughan. I don't know who Linda Vaughan is, Scott. You'll have to send me a DM on Twitter or Instagram with Linda. And I imagine that she's pleasant on the eye. Should we put it politely?
What is this? 1960s?
Oh, dear.
Pleasant on the eye.
Pleasant on the eye, I say. No. I was trying to think of
going back in time.
No. I imagine she could have made a good sandwich. Yeah. So if you're going to go 960s, you might as well go all in. We're all in now.
You went with sandwich.
World Cup prediction for England. We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to beat you Yanks in the group stages. We're going to win. Miss Hunt, after many years and a fixture at the 500. Oh, no. There we go. We'll see. You'll have to send. Just started following IMSA and GT America. Fun races to watch. More of endurance type racing. Absolutely. Really good. Look, guys, I think this is a fantastic place to end off the season review. It's been
brilliant. We've still got another minute.
Sorry, we've still got another minute for go. Wait, the US and the World Cup? You are indeed. Thank you, Scott. So, I wasn't wrong. I was not wrong. Are you guys going to try? Are we going to try and make the 500 next year? Look, I think the 500 still is difficult next year with my personal circumstances. Career-wise has been a tricky-wise. I think 2022 is the best way to put it.
He's been meandering on a river.
I have been meandering on a river, but I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks that is sorted. We can have a firmer thing, and maybe working for a company that has potential for US trips. So I could maybe work things along there.
Yes. If not 2023, 2024 for sure. No excuses.
Look, I think we might still apply for tickets this year because I know you've got to be in the ballot, haven't you, to kind of have them handed out. So even if we buy cheap IndyCar tickets, it means that we can then be recurring ones. Explain to us how the ticketing system works at the Indy 500. What's the best approach to go away? Yeah,
so
not
we're going to be gone in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. DM it from there. Any thoughts on new IndyCar? I've seen F1 porpoising at NASCAR safety issues. Oh, I know, Joe. It's pathetic, isn't it?
No more excuses.
I know you're kidding about the poster. Don't worry, Scott. Rob, fantastic question. We'll be live next week. I think we'll answer those sort of questions next year. Tickets are easier to come by. Just contact IMS. All right.
Nice.
Okay. Fair enough then. We'll do that.
Basically, the biggest celebrities in the sport, they're going to be rolling out the red carpet,
essentially.
You know?
Essentially. All the other media will just be like, whoa, Indy fanatics are here this year. You're damn right we are. But yeah, my tickets are reasonable and pretty easy to get. Okay. Fair enough.
And they're actually affordable, unlike going to Silverstone.
Yeah,
Our
so that's
home F1 Grand Prix.
that is. It probably would be cheaper to get to the Indy 500 than to go to Silverstone,
Is getting to that point.
which is a little bit mental. The museum alone is a must. Absolutely, that we can't wait. It is a pilgrimage for us, and we can't wait to pay homage to our Indianapolis 500. Exactly.
No excuses.
Anyway, guys, that is it from us today. We hope you've enjoyed the season review. Sorry, we've obviously been away for a break, but we're going to hope over this close season, plenty of live streams for you, plenty of chats with the fantastic community we have here. We'll try and get some classic watch-alongs. We'll try and get a little bit of everything for everyone in these chats. But if you're new around here, or you haven't done so already, what can they do, Stephen?
They can like, subscribe, and ding that bell.
Dig it! So for now, you Indy fans, keep racing!
Bam, bam, ba-dum.